Okay, so this is the TCR unit here. One of the first ignition units really that I suppose bikes had in the 1970s, before, when it was all used to be working on points, up to mid 70s or so. This is one of Yamaha's first ones, I think it was, something like that. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. I hope you can see the reading on there. So there's two pulses on the left hand side of the engine as you're sat on it, on the crank, which basically send a pulse through to the igniter, which then tells the coils to spark, and basically that's how it works. It's as simple as that. I did have a problem with the feed coming up from the pulses, because the wiring on this one was completely different to anything that was in the manuals. I had the orange and grey lead, which relate to the orange and grey going to the coils, but the two earths, that sort of like earth there that create the circuit for the pulse, were both blue, and I've found a diagram of something else that should have been blue and black, but both of these were blue, so I assume at some stage someone's possibly changed a cable. Anyway, the other problem I had was that when you're supposed to test basically your wiring is red and white, green and white, so that's green and white's the negative, red and white's the positive. Doesn't matter which way around these are. I was getting readings diagonally rather than together. So you, as I said, you should have been getting the red and white and the green and white and the yellow and red and yellow and the green and yellow. So they're the pairs. If you can see like that. They're the pairs. I was getting readings from here, and someone had swapped the two blues over at some stage. So it would never have, well, possibly might have run, but it wasn't right. So to check the pulses, you should have a resistance of around about 680. This is on kilo ohms, so it's going to come up as 0.680. You plus or minus, I think it's 10% you're supposed to be. So let's do that, and that's, come on, that's 0.677, which is well within the range. And then we check the other side, the other two underneath, and that's 0.703, which is still in, which is cool. So that side's good. Then on the output, you have to connect the power. You have a grey, which runs to pots 2 and 3 coil. You have an orange, which runs to pots 1 and 4 coil. You have the red and the white and red, which is coming off the feed that I showed you earlier. As I said, I will have the wiring diagram up on the channel for you. There's the red and white as well, which is that one. There's also a red and yellow, which actually goes down to the starter side of the starter solenoid. I actually don't know why that's there. I think it's most probably that it sends in a 12 volt feed when you press the starter, possibly because it's eliminating everything else, so it's still giving the power into the box. That's my theory, but in the wiring that should be connected on that side, so that's where it is. And then you've also got a black and white lead, which runs up to an emergency stop under the tank, which I didn't show you earlier, but it's we'll pick that up at another stage. This basically is if the bike if the bike falls over past 60 degrees, the engine cuts out, so it's not running while the bike's on the floor. So this isn't actually connected to the earth at the moment, although it has to have a voltage on it. So let's change over to DC, get some form of range here. That'll do. I'll put the earth onto where all my earthing points are, which is just there. Right, so you should have 12 volts on the grey going to 2 and 3. You should have 12 volts going to the orange on 2 and 3, on 1 and 4 pots, sorry, for the coil. And then you should have 12 volts coming back in on the white and red. You should have 12 volts on the red and white, which we have, and then on the yellow, on the red and yellow, you should have 0, because that only works on the works when the starter is pressed. The black and white should have 6 volts, and it has to have 6 volts there, so that when it actually, if there's ever a problem, it'll end up cutting the engine out. And then the 7th one is just an earth, which you won't have anything there. But if we go on to continuity, you should have a beep. And that's the whole test for the CDI unit. Okay, so the coils that were on the bike originally, on the Trike, sorry, were I was only getting a spark off one side when I first started trying it 4 or 5 weeks ago, and there is a test you can do on the coils to see whether they're in. On the XS1100, some coils vary. Aftermarket ones are 3 ohm, which we've got a resistor in the, as I showed you before, in the system at the moment. If you're using aftermarket coils that are 3, then you don't need a resistor. However, these are 1.6 ohm coils. A lot of bikes use them. I think most bikes use them. And I wasn't getting anything off this 2 and 3. I was getting spark off the 104, off 104, orange and red and white, but I wasn't getting anything off the grey and red and white. So I took them off, tested them. So you set your to ohms resistance and onto the lowest scale possible, so you get a reading. And if we go on to here, that's 2.6. You can see that 2.6. That's way out. It's 1.6 plus or minus 10% or something like that, it's supposed to be. So that was no good anyway. It was still sparking, but however, the one from pots 2 and 3, it was an open circuit, so completely dead. So when you test them, you need to make sure that you've got a resistance of 1.6, 1.5, 1.7, which will be fine. But they should be, if they're in good condition, you should get resistance 1.6. Okay, so the secondary side, which is the high tension leads, this side, should be 15 kilo ohms, plus or minus 10% for these coils anyway. I've fired the leads down into the getting 255 kilo ohms, which is no wonder they weren't sparking. They're just not right at all. If we go on to the other, go into the 1 and 4 coil, that is 11.7 kilo ohms. So that's probably why it was still sparking, but it's outside the 10%. It's 15 kilo ohms, 10% is 1.5, so it's either between 13.5 and 16.5. They're 11.7. Possibly the bike might have run with that coil, but I don't think it would have run very well, and possibly the spark might have, when it got under compression, the spark might have disappeared. But it just wasn't even worth doing it. I just bought another pair of second-hand coils, which I got from a breakers, really tidy ones for I think it was £47 plus post and packing. But that's how you test your coils. Just thought I'd show you that one as well. Okay, so that's the end of the first vlog or blog or whatever you want to call it. Please feel free to send me some comments. I know it's a little bit hit and miss at the moment. It's sort of, I've basically just shown you where I'm up to, but a few people wanted to sort of see what was happening, and once we get into the next container, which is going to be, you know, a week or two before I get a chance to sort of get everything set up in there, then I'll start doing a proper vlog with, because the carbs are going to need stripping down. The engine doesn't sound too bad, but all the casings are going to need cleaning. It's been stood for a very long time. The carbs are the main one. It was running, it run with a choke, it would rev, but wasn't ticking over, even though the carbs were completely empty of fuel, were dry when I got it. I reckon most probably the pilot jets are knackered and stuff like that. So we'll have that to do. Once I've got all that side done, then I need to start looking at how to actually sit the electrics in the bike, and then I can start working on the brakes, the mud guards and everything else that needs doing. It's going to be quite a long project, but hopefully it'd be nice to include you guys, and feel free if you've got any comments and any ideas yourself, if I've made any mistakes in any statements, and we'll talk to you soon. Cheers. And I must put a mention on for the relay, because the idea of using that relay was from a guy called Andy in Australia. He's got a channel called Basket Case, building an XS1100 cafe racer, and I'll put a link up to his channel as well, because he's got a lot of wiring diagrams there as well, which you can look at. Cheers.